Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tuesday, March the 14th, 2023. Welcome to Civil Justice Subcommittee. Thank you for joining us today. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Good afternoon. Representatives Beck. Here. Bolso. Here. Capley. Here. Eldridge. Here. Farmer. Here. Grills. Lamberth. Real. Parkinson. Todd. Here. Chairman Russell. Here. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Members, do we have any personal orders or announcements this morning or this afternoon? Seeing none, we'll jump into the calendar. House Bills 606, 570, 37, 746, 1162, 1507, and 1351 are all rolled to the final calendar. And House Bill 977 and 968 are off notice. That brings us to item number 1, House Bill 905 by Representative Johnson. Representative Johnson, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 905 seeks to add new judges where they're needed the most in the 13th, 19th, 22nd, and 23rd judicial districts. The need is based on the most recent comptroller's weighted caseload study, which shows these districts demonstrated the highest need over a 3-year period. This bill is from the administrative offices of the court. The Tennessee Judicial Conference has approved it, and the judicial system as a whole understands that these districts need judges. What this bill, if enacted, it would add 1 new circuit court in District 13, which is Clay, Cumberland, DeKalb, Overton, Pickett, Putnam, and White counties. It would add 2 new judgeships in District 19, which has the highest estimated need of any district in the state. And District 19 is Montgomery and Robertson County. 1 new circuit court in District 22, which is Giles, Lawrence, Murray, and Wayne counties. And it adds 1 new circuit court in District 23, which is Cheatham, Dixon, Houston, Humphrey, and Stewart County.
And thank you for that explanation, Representative Johnson. You've done a wonderful job as usual. Members who have any questions for Representative Johnson? Representative Parkinson, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, what did you say? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
All right. Representative Capley, you recognized.
Thank you for bringing this bill, Mr. Speaker. We need this terribly. Thank you.
I agree.
All right. Any other questions before we vote? Seeing none, looks like we're ready to vote. Send House Bill 905 to Civil Justice Full Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Ayes have it. Bill moves on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. And that brings us to item 2. Chairman Crawford, he's chairing a committee, so we're going to roll him to the Hill temporarily. So without objection, item 2 to the Hill. Brings us to, just looking around here. Who do we have here? That bring. Yes. Just one moment. And what we'll do, folks, let's move down to the Hill, well, almost to the Hill. Let's move down to item 14 by Chairman Todd. Of course, that's been rolled. Moving up, item 13, That's been rolled. Item 12, that's been rolled. It brings us to item 11, House Bill 970 by Representative Thompson. I don't see him here. Got a motion to roll that to the Hill? Any objection? Okay. Roll that to the Hill. Looks like we're at a stopping point. I don't think we have any. Oh, we do. Excuse me. I do apologize. Item 6, for anybody that's watching, House Bill 1044 by Representative Bricken. You've got a motion. You're in a second. You're properly recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Well, y'all are moving fast. House Bill 1044. This bill will require the Department of Safety to issue enhanced handgun carry permits that actually say enhanced handgun carry permit on the permit card of the holder. Tennessee law knows two different kinds of handgun permits today: enhanced handgun permits and concealed handgun carry permits. It does not know handgun carry permits anymore. It's currently issued by the department. Currently, the Department of Safety does not issue permits which actually say enhanced handgun carry permits. It does issue concealed handgun carry permits, but permits issued under Title 3917-351, which the law calls enhanced handgun permits, only carry the ambiguous title handgun carry permits, which Tennessee law does not define. So with that, sir, it's a simple bill. It just elevates and identifies citizens that have taken the full safety course and entitled to the enhanced handgun permit to get it issued on their permit card.
Very good, members. And it looks like we do have some folks who had given notice to the committee to testify. Do we want to ask Representative Brick questions now? You want to go out of session here from the? You can go out of session first? All right, without objection, we're going to go out of session here from our guests. First, I have Toby Meyer. Toby, are you here? All right. Sir, you know the drill. Make sure your red light's on. You've got 3 minutes. I have unlimited time for questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. The most important thing about this bill is that some states only acknowledge the enhanced handgun carry permit from Tennessee. Examples are Nebraska, North Dakota. So the problem is for Tennesseans that travel to any of these states, right now they do not have a permit that actually says enhanced. And the concern is that a police officer there might pull a Tennessean over and look in their booklet, okay, which permits do we acknowledge from Tennessee? From Tennessee we only acknowledge the enhanced handgun carry permit. And then they look at the person's permit and say, wait, this one only says handgun carry permit. Sir, you don't have the right permit. You're not allowed to carry a firearm in our state. And then a Tennessean who is following the law may be placed under arrest for that. So this bill basically fixes that.
Very good. Members, any questions for Mr. Meyer? Any questions? Going once, going twice. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Next, I have Ms. Stroker. I have you and Mr. Voitis and Colonel Perry. Colonel, are you here somewhere? No? Okay. And you know the drill as well, so if you would, just, ma'am, be sure your red light's on, introduce yourself, and your 3 minutes will start.
Elizabeth Stroker, Legislative Director, Assistant General Counsel for the Department of Safety. Wanted to speak on some issues that we have with the bill. When the concealed carry law was passed, this conversation came up of renaming the enhanced permit to the enhanced permit, and the problem was we would see a lot of confusion because the current enhanced permit, as it is now, is either 8 years or lifetime. So there was no mandate, just as this bill, that it actually be replaced with this new language. So the problem is you could have people, so my handgun permit is 8 years, and it says handgun permit, even though it's the enhanced. Now, if this law were to pass, anyone else that comes in is going to say enhanced handgun permit. They're going to be the exact same permit with different labeling on them. And if you take that out of state, that's probably going to cause confusion. And you're going to have states that think we then have 3 different handgun permits, and we don't. So we would prefer it stay in place, how we put it in place whenever concealed carry was passed. We're not aware of any states rejecting it for reciprocity's sake, just based on the name of the permit. That's never been an issue or anything that has been told to us. What we're afraid of is if you actually do this, people may not accept it because you're going to have one that says handgun, one that says enhanced, but they have the exact same requirements and allow for the exact same places to carry. So we feel like this is just not needed. It's not a problem that's been brought to us or has ever been expressed to us. So we would prefer that we not use those resources to redo something that is not an issue currently.
Very good, and thank you for that. Members have any questions? I have Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I was confused at first, and now I'm even more confused. So I got my handgun carry permit right here, and it is for easy now. Back there in the cheap seats. Look, I think it was for 8 years. Yeah, well, it's coming up on expiration here in July. So mine says handgun carry permit, but I went through the classes and stuff. So this is an actual enhanced carry permit.
Ms. Strucker.
Yes, correct.
Okay, all right. And I am a Marine, by the way, young man back there. Okay. And so with this is an enhanced carry permit. So when I renew, will the wording change on it, or will it stay, if this bill doesn't pass? Will the wording stay, if this bill does pass, will the wording on it change, or what happens? Or even if the bill doesn't pass, will the wording change on it?
Safety, you recognized.
So if the bill were to pass, the wording on yours would change, correct, to then say enhanced permit. But let's say someone has a lifetime permit, theirs would never change unless they came in and specifically asked for us to issue them a new one. So that's where the confusion could come in, is you would have two people with the exact same permit, with the exact same requirements, having two different names on them. But currently, if the law didn't change, your permit name does not change.
Right.
Representative Parkinson.
And so is the challenge the expiration dates with the same name on them? Is that what we're talking about?
Safety, you recognized.
No, it's not that. It's the problem is that it doesn't require everything be changed and reissued. It's only people who request it or people who renew it. So you're going to have a situation where some people have a new name on it and some people have an old name, which would cause confusion.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Representative Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So do you think the way this is written, it prevents the department from reissuing permits with the words enhanced carry permit on them, or is it only restricted to when someone requests it or gets a brand new one?
Safety, you recognized. It
is only if somebody requests it or gets a renewal. It's not everyone as written.
Representative Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's still a good idea. I really do think this is a good idea. It's a step in the right direction that we should have been going a long time ago. Unfortunately, I don't know how that didn't get in the original designation when we ended up with two types of permits. But I think we really need this in law. So thank you for your testimony.
Safety. Representative Lambert. Leader Lambert.
Thank you, Chairman. Just as a question, and I'm glad to hear you say that the lifetime permits are not going to change. So for all of y'all that are optimistic on how long you're going to be around in this particular world, please get a lifetime handgun carry permit. They're great. When yours comes up for renewal, Representative Parkinson, you can get a lifetime permit, okay? So, but I'm glad to hear that those are not going to have to be changed. But here's my question. So if one of our citizens is in another state, because I understand the issue, that it's going to say enhanced permit or concealed permit, when say they come into contact with law enforcement in Iowa or somewhere else, do they just look at the permit and that's it? Or do they run that through a system of some sort, the way a driver's license is run, so that they can confirm that it is legitimate? I've always had kind of that concern as to, if somebody just has the physical card, is that all they need, or does it run through some kind of system?
Safety, you recognize.
So it depends on the state. Our state, if you present to us a facially valid permit, so one that is unexpired, we do not check anything else, and we will accept any facially valid permit from any state. And so some states may be that way, some states may require more, but it's very state dependent. So I can only really speak for Tennessee on that, but generally they accept a facially valid permit, because in order to check it, that wouldn't be going necessarily through the driver's license database. You wouldn't be able to check it uniformly across the nation like you could a driver's license.
Leader Lemon.
Thank you. Yeah, that you may have identified a much larger problem here. I was hopeful that there was some sort of a database that folks could check. There definitely should be. So, but thank you very much.
Except you have anything else to follow up?
Just a comment that I think there are prohibitions on that due to federal firearm registries and things like that. So that's kind of where that can't really come into play. So, but yes, agree. It would definitely be convenient if that did exist.
Thank you. Not seeing any other questions. We appreciate you coming by today. Thank you. Without objection, we'll go back in session. Any questions for the sponsor? Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm still confused, so I really don't know if I don't have an issue with your bill.
Just vote yes.
Yeah, right. There you go. Right. Just moving on out. But is there a fiscal note on the bill?
Any costs will be right now absorbed by the Department of Safety until they run out of funds for it, and then the $15 renewal fee would be used.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions for the sponsor? Question's been called. We'll be voting on House Bill 1044 to send to civil full. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes prevail. Civil full. All right, next up is item number 10, House Bill 100 by Representative Stevens. Do I have a motion? We got a motion and a second. Representative Stevens, you are recognized, and I do show an amendment.
Yes, that is drafting code 4466.
4466, do I have a motion and a second? We got a motion and a second. All those in favor of adding 4466 to House Bill 100 signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Amendment added. Representative Stevens, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill would simply remove the state portion of a litigation tax on adoption cases, and it will not affect any local revenue.
Any questions for the sponsor? Representative Beck. And you're welcome to go back and forth.
Thank you. And I was just curious, I was following along quickly, and then you said this will not affect local revenue. How does it not affect local revenue?
The amendment that was added on there specifically says that local taxes are not going to be affected by the state litigation tax being removed from the adoption case.
Okay, so we're just removing the state part and the local part is staying out.
That is correct.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're voting on House Bill 100, send to civil full. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes prevail. Civil full.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Next up, item number 11, House Bill 970. Do I have a motion? We got a motion. Do I have a second? Got a second. Representative Thompson, you are recognized.
970 is a small bill. However, it's intended to be a partial solution to a serious crime problem. Certainly in my district, in my county, and really across the state, common sense tells you that firearms are not, this is dealing with theft from, gun thefts from cars, and common sense tells you the firearms are not going to be used for legitimate purposes, but placed in the hands of offenders to commit more crimes. HB 970 simply requires that gun safety courses certified by the Department of Safety include instruction on safe storage of firearms, including the knowledge and use of gun locks. The intent is to put a dent in the gun theft problem in Tennessee, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the sponsor? Representative Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't even know if this is really a question, but your comment about the purpose behind this to prevent guns from being stolen, I think we hear almost every week about, in this committee, references to guns being stolen out of automobiles. And I would purport that the biggest reason for that is how we restrict people's ability to carry and protect themselves. That's one of the biggest challenges that people that want to carry and defend themselves have in our society today is the, quote, gun-free zones where only the criminals have guns. And that forces the law-abiding citizens to leave weapons in their vehicles, most of the time locked. That doesn't obviously prevent somebody from surmising that somebody with a certain kind of sticker on their vehicle or whatever, and going into the courthouse, they know they're not going armed, so where would their likely weapon be? So I think that's probably the biggest challenge that we have here. The other part I don't like about this is that we're requiring these courses to change their curriculum and add something else. I think if we just requested that or suggested that, that would be much more palatable to me. But I just don't think this is viable to require that. But I just wanted to get that on the record. Thank you, sir. And Mr. Chairman, I would like to call for a roll call vote on this one, if we could, please.
We'll keep that in mind. Thank you. Sponsor, you'd like to respond to that?
Well, yeah, I can understand some of your points and everything. Would point out that the Department of Safety is fine with this change in their coursework.
Any other questions for the sponsor? All right, seeing none, we'll be voting on House Bill 970 by roll call. Madam Clerk, call the roll. Or take the vote.
Representatives Beck? Aye. Beck, aye. Bolso? No. Bolso, no. Capley? No. Capley, no. Eldridge? No. Eldridge, no. Farmer? Grills? Lamberth? No. Lamberth, no. Parkinson? Todd? No. Todd, no. Chairman Russell? Aye. Russell, aye. Chairman, you have 2 ayes and 5 noes.
Bill fails.
Thank you, Chair and Committee.
Thank you. Next up is item number.
It's Representative Williams. It's item number 4.
Okay, that brings us back to item number 4, House Bill 1202 by Representative Williams. Do I have a motion and a second? We've got a motion and a second. Representative Williams, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman and members. I also have a timely filed amendment that, don't I?
We don't have an amendment.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Wrong bill.
But you are recognized on the bill.
Just to confirm, the House bill number again is?
House bill that I'm showing is 1202.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Chairman and members. What this bill would do would create a pathway for K-12 campuses to allow for students to carry or for teachers, my apologies, teachers to carry firearms on campus. What it creates is through a training, 40 hours of training, much like a certified, post-certified training at their local law enforcement agency, they'd have to have a certified, they'd have to have a permit to carry. They would also have to notify the law enforcement agent, and they would be responsible for that training every year. They would also have to pass a background check, and the firearm would also have to be carried concealed. It's permissive. The value, I think, to our local schools is that much like that didn't occur where active shootings occur, we were able to put signage on every school in Tennessee that says you may find someone in this school other than an SRO that is licensed to and empowered to carry a firearm. With that, Chairman and members, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Representative Parkinson. You're up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And you all can go back and forth without me recognizing you.
Thank you, sir. With the 40 hours, is this actual post-certification?
Thank you, Chairman. Section D of the bill, it says the faculty staff must complete a minimum of 40 hours of training specified to school policing that is approved by the police officer standards and training or post commission.
Oh, okay, we can go back and forth. So how many hours is it for the actual post certification? Do we know what the difference is? Difference in the training?
I'm unaware of that, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We do have somebody here to testify if you want to do that first. And without objection, we'll go out of session. And Jason Banks, I think's the name? Sparks. Okay, Sparks. You got 3 minutes, Mr. Sparks. And if you'll just make sure your red light's on, and when you start speaking, we'll start counting the time. And if you'll identify yourself for the committee so we'll know who you are and who you represent.
Hello, my name is Jason Sparks. I'm a native Nashvilleian living in Nashville now with my family. I'm also a gun violence survivor. My wife and I have 2 children in public schools here, and I'm representing Moms Demand Action. Current Tennessee law allows guns in schools in a number of ways. In public schools, former or current law enforcement officers may carry firearms at a public school so long as they've completed basic police training, they have an enhanced carry permit, and the local education agency has adopted a policy allowing them to do so. So, current law allows teachers and staff who meet these requirements to carry at schools. Remember, they must have served as law enforcement officers to carry guns at schools. HB 1202 expands the presence of guns in schools by allowing teachers to carry, even those who have not had law enforcement training. We oppose this dangerous expansion of arming teachers. If more guns in more places made us safer, we'd be safe already, and we're not. There's no evidence that arming teachers makes our schools safer. Schools should be safe, trusting places where our children can learn and grow free from fear. While there's certainly basic security measures like internally locking doors and access control that all schools should implement, measures that make our schools more like military bases do not create the nurturing and trusting environment that is conducive to learning. We all want to keep our children safe in school, but letting teachers carry loaded guns in classrooms is dangerous and ineffective. Expecting a teacher to neutralize an active shooter, who could even be a former student, is unrealistic. In addition, adding armed teachers complicates the response of law enforcement in an already complex, fast-moving situations. It would be nearly impossible for law enforcement to tell who is an armed teacher and who's an active shooter. We know that arming our teachers doesn't make children safer. In fact, it increases the chances that a teacher's gun will fall into the wrong hands, or that a gun will discharge unintentionally and injure a student, or, as happened in Texas a few weeks back, an administrator will leave his handgun in the bathroom for a first grader to find. Introducing guns into schools isn't only ineffective, but you're also introducing more risk instead of making anyone safer. I think we can all think of a teacher or faculty member we wouldn't have wanted to have had armed in our previous school experiences in the past either. Bottom line, there is little to no evidence that arming teachers or school personnel is an effective way to stop active shooters. Listen to school safety experts, school administrators, law enforcement officers, teachers, parents, and students. Keep guns out of our kids' school. Please oppose this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Sparks. Any questions for Mr. Sparks? Seeing none, we appreciate your time for coming down today. Thank you. Without objection, we'll go back in session. And to the sponsor, you're recognized. We got any questions for the Representative Capley?
I would just have a comment, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sponsor, for bringing this bill. I plan on supporting it. I'm encouraging my colleagues to do so. I have a school in my district right now that hasn't had an SRO for 6 weeks because the sheriff's department cannot man the facility. So that school is basically defenseless. So thank you for bringing this bill.
Thank you.
Representative Beck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the sponsor. So this is permissive, correct? So an LEA is not going to be required to allow your rules.
And you're welcome to go back and forth.
Thank you, Chairman. Not used to your subcommittee. That is correct. It is permissive, and so there has to be a memo of understanding, between the LEA and the law enforcement agent that's there. For instance, in my district, Putnam County Sheriff's Office would coordinate with the LEA as it relates to any teacher who wanted to go through the post-certification 40 hours of training, have a permit to carry, and do that background check. And so that's how the process would work.
So the LEA says that we're going to do this and let teachers be armed according to your specifications. In the last part of your bill, you give the LEAs immunity for claims for monetary damages. Can you explain to me what your thought is there?
I'm sorry, I can't get used to it. The law enforcement agency that I worked with as it relates to the drafting of this bill felt like it was a part of the bill that would be necessary to make sure that the entities were preserved from each other if someone volunteered to do this.
So if I'm LEA and I say, yes, we're going to do this, if a teacher accidentally shoots a kid, the parents of that child has no recourse against the LEA making a decision to let these guns into these schools. Am I thinking correctly there?
I don't know the answer to that question, but it's my understanding that they would be able to bring suit against the individual who did that.
So
not the entity of the school.
So we can sue the teacher, but not the LEA that authorized the teacher to bring the gun in. Is that what you're saying?
The law enforcement agent is the one who authorizes it through the training. No different than we would have for instance, in Capley's district where there are no SROs. Those SROs have to be trained, post-certified trained officers too, as it relates to training in a school.
Okay, so we may have misunderstood each other. I thought the LEAs were the ones who gave permission to the teachers whether or not they can carry guns in their schools.
In section 1 of the bill, paragraph 1, it says, a person employed by an LEA as a faculty or staff member at a school within the LEA is permitted to possess and carry a concealed handgun on the grounds of the school in which that person is assigned.
So are you now saying that the LEA does not have to give permission, that the permissiveness is only to the teacher of any LEA in the whole state?
Probably be good for us to ask that of legal.
That's an excellent idea. I agree.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can we go out of?
Without objection, we'll go out of session here from legal. Legal, you're recognized.
Elizabeth and Sonia Legal Services. So Section 496815 currently authorizes faculty or staff members to carry pursuant to permission from the director of schools and school principal, and then also separately allows law enforcement to carry pursuant to a memorandum of understanding between the law enforcement agency and the LEA. This bill would change only for faculty or staff, and the permission would come instead of from the director of schools or principal, director of schools and principal, it would come from the chief law enforcement officer of the appropriate law enforcement agency.
So the LEA would have no input as to if their teachers can carry onto their school grounds.
As it's currently written, that permission would come from the chief law enforcement agent.
And as it's written, if the LEAs will not be liable for the actions of their employees if their employee accidentally shoots someone.
The bill provides the LEA is immune from claims for monetary damages that arise solely from or related to a faculty or staff member's use of, failure to use a handgun. So the employee could still be liable, but the LEA would not be liable.
And Representative Beck, make sure you use the microphone so the people online,
I'm sorry.
online can hear us.
So this bill would do away with respondeat superior.
for those specific claims.
for those specific claims. Okay.
Representative
all I have.
Parkinson, is it for legal or the sponsor? Okay, you're recognized.
Thank you. Under this bill, would the individual that's being authorized by law enforcement have to notify the LEA that that they've been approved by law enforcement to carry at the school? Does the bill specifically address that?
Section 2F1 says that the employee's name and other information may be disclosed to an administrative officer of the school district who is responsible for school facility security if the administrative officer is not the employee's immediate supervisor or supervisor responsible for evaluating the employee, and then that information must not be disclosed to any other person.
Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you. Did you say may or shall?
It may be disclosed to the administrative officer of the school district, and then it shall not be disclosed to any other person.
So just so I'm clear, so the school district doesn't even necessarily, it's not even mandatory that the school district knows who's carrying a gun inside of their schools, because it says may, not shall.
That's permissive. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Chairman Todd, is it for legal?
Yes, sir.
You're recognized.
Thank you. The question is related to what we have currently in law with respect to the law enforcement of the SROs in schools right now, or anyone permitted right now. Are the school systems held harmless? Are they immune from that same civil liability?
The immunity language that's found in subsection H of this bill is not contained in this current section. There may be somewhere else that addresses that issue, but this section 49.6.815 does not address that issue right now.
I wonder if the general immunity for law enforcement on duty applies possibly to that.
To claims against them personally, I would think it does.
But as far as the LEA goes, we're not sure whether they have something somewhere else in the code that gives them the similar kind of immunity.
That's correct. I mean, I think
okay.
it just depends on the factual scenario of what happened, so it's hard for me to weigh in on that.
Understand. Thank you.
Representative Cap, please, yours for legal.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, without objection, we'll go back in session. Chairman Farmer, you're recognized.
Thanks, sir. I call the question.
Question's been called. We're voting on House Bill 1202 to send to civil full. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
Civil full. Congratulations. All right, next up is item number 2, House Bill 1374 by Chairman Crawford. Chairman Crawford, you are recognized. You got a motion and a second. I show an amendment. We got a motion and a second. I do need an amendment code, though.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. Got too many pieces of paper. The amendment I have is 4241.
That's what I show. We got a motion and a second on the amendment. We're voting to put amendment 4241 on House Bill 1374. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Amendment added. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. I'll be as brief as I possibly can, but let you know where the bill come from and what we're trying to do. I had a constituent that lives in my district who cared for his cousin. He was the main caretaker. He went every day to take care of this guy, and he did have blood relatives still alive, but his brothers would not take care of him, and that's why the cousin had to do so. Matter of fact, the brothers were so bad that they tied him to a chair and left him there for several days, and he passed away. And so what this bill does is it addresses the compensation back to help cover some of the funeral expenses that the state treasurer, I believe it is, that has the fund to take care of that. Within the bill, it did not address certain members of the family. It basically addressed the spouse, parent, grandparent, step-parent, child, grandchild, brother, sister, half-brother, half-sister, spouses, parents, and step-parents. But it did not include uncles or cousins or aunts. And what this bill does is it goes into there and adds those three words, including aunts, uncles, and cousins. It won't affect my constituent because it was not in place at this time, but it would keep somebody else who's providing that care to a family member that they could get some compensation to help bury that family member. So that's what the bill does. That's where it come from. I stand to answer any questions.
Very good. Any questions, Representative Beck?
Thanks, Chairman. I would take it that they're going to have to show proof that they paid this funeral bill in order to be reimbursed.
Absolutely.
Very good. Thank you so much.
All right, seeing no further question, we're voting to send House Bill 1374 to Civil Full. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Civil Full, congratulations.
Thank you, committee and chairman.
All right, seeing no further business, without objection, we stand adjourned.